I'm Ann Ball from the Maine Downtown Center, and I'm here with Sophie Drew from the Maine Downtown Center for our webinar this morning, The Power of Students. And we have two wonderful guests, and we are going to spend 45 minutes together, actually about 40 minutes together. So the first thing I would like to do is have you sign in with your name and your community in the chat. And you should find the chat on the top of your toolbar. We are using Teams. We are appreciating your kindness and graciousness, as this is a new tool for us. We've been using Zoom for so many years, and we're transitioning to Teams. So we're recording this. We will share the slide deck and resources after our webinar together. We will have time for questions, and with a small group, we are happy to have you just take yourselves off mute. I want to thank our wonderful sponsors who we could not do this work without them. And they are really important to our everyday work at the Maine Downtown Center and Maine Development Foundation. And the other thing I like to do with our short learning opportunities is ground the topic in the 4 points. So the 4 points, as everybody knows, are really the way our Main Streets affiliates and municipal programs are thinking about downtown revitalization. And these 4 points have been part of the approach for over 40 years to doing this place-based and preservation-based economic development in our communities. And when we think about working with students and opportunities to work with students in our communities and in projects that you guys are doing at the local level, it really does cross all 4 points. It's kind of interesting to think about. It's not really one or the other, but projects you do with students could very much be happening in economic vitality, you know, things like business surveys. It certainly can relate to design. We have students who have helped with design. Luke is going to talk about that. We have promotion and events. We have students that have planned downtown events with their downtown organizations. And then organization and really thinking about storytelling for the organization. We have a lot of student storytelling projects. And then I think Delilah and Luke will share a lot more. So the work of students and the partnership with students and educational institutions, both from really young ages through high school to college, it really crosses all the 4 points. So I did want to say that. And then I think what we're going to do is have our speakers introduce themselves to get started, if that makes sense to everybody. Hi, William. Thanks for joining us. We're not sure why the crowd is so small, but we're glad that you're here. And just take yourself off mute this morning if you need anything or have questions. So, Delilah, how about we start with you introducing yourself?
Hey, good morning. I'm Delilah Papour. I'm the director at the Heart of Biddeford. Been here in this job since 2011, so that's 14 and a half years. I know it's a long time, and very glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. And Luke, we would love to have you introduce yourself.
I'm Luke Dyer. I'm the town manager for the town of Van Buren, also a member of the Van Buren Revitalization Association. And I have been in this position for 3 years, just over 3 years.
Great. And Van Buren is one of our downtown affiliate programs. So that is sometimes referred to as the little sibling to the Main Street program. And you do have to be an affiliate before you can be a Main Street. So I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with Delilah and Luke this morning. And I think that the topic really is going to show innovation, creativity, and sort of amazing learning opportunities for the students and amazing opportunities for our downtown organizations to have wonderful products and results and things like that. Let's see. And I do have some slides that I'll share, photographs of Delilah and Luke's works, and we have some links that Sophie's going to help me pull in, and really lots of great content in this webinar this morning. So I would love to ask Luke and Delilah. Luke, we'll just start with you to talk about a couple of maybe your recent programs or initiatives that you've done with students, or maybe it's to help with day-to-day operations with students. And so, Luke, I'll start with you to just share with everybody.
The current projects that we've been working on were essentially around design, and not necessarily like architecture design, but just design research. And working with Drexel University, we've worked with Georgetown University, we've worked with Clemson University, and most of our projects have been graduate student based. So one of them was a capstone project from Georgetown University to do like a rebranding of the town of Van Buren, which included a lot of design research to get to the final design. And then also an architecture project of redeveloping our old municipal building into the future community connectivity hub and small business incubator.
That's great. And do you want me to show you there any of those pictures, Luke? Or not yet?
Not yet, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, totally fine. Yeah, so you've mostly been working with colleges and graduate students, and also organizations out of the state of Maine.
Yeah, all out of the state of Maine. Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Delilah, would you like to share something about a couple of your recent initiatives?
Yeah, and I think it would be great to show the pictures while I just do this brief introduction.
Absolutely, we will do that.
I loved hearing those examples from Luke, because I was curious, what do you do if you don't have a college 4 miles away like we do? But here's an example, again, pretty hyper local, of high school students at our Center of Technology, vocational school located a mile away. And they did a project working with the businesses. And since we started that several years ago, we do that every year with the marketing and business students, pairing them up with businesses. Next slide. This is an example of the resident advisors out at the university. They, as well as philanthropy clubs, the med students, various different groups come and just help us for 2.5 hours for an event, something like that, or a park cleanup. There's a lot of student work that just is, like quick for events or a quick project. And then lastly, kind of the further end of the spectrum, this was Miranda last summer, who did a paid internship with us that was 40 hours a week. And that's kind of the range from, showing up for a couple of hours and we never see you again, to working full time. And in fact, she is now doing another internship this fall and returning this fall, not for 40 hours a week because she has to go to classes, but she, having that consistency with her. And I'll also just mention another project. This is where we got to go up to Sabayig and meet with some water keepers up there. It was a really great part of getting to do research together on a project. And the other project that I thought I'd mention was we are partnering with the Maine Black Chamber of Commerce and doing an entrepreneurship program for high school and college students. We did a pilot last year and we're in the second year right now. And one part of that entrepreneurship training is learning to be tour guides in our tour program. So all summer long, the students who had been trained were ready to present and lead our summer tours.
Wow, 40-hour internship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that did cost $3,400, and the university matched it plus gave them housing. But that's like the most we've ever paid for it.
So am I correct in saying you split the cost of the internship with University of New England?
That's right.
That's amazing. Is there anything else you want to share about sort of how it came together and how you I don't know, did they approach you? Did you approach them?
Yeah, great. the process at the university, you know, it's kind of getting ahead to another question you thought had us think about was how do you kind of form these relationships? And I had been working with the environmental person on campus for many years, just for our like days of service that we schedule. And when an EPA grant opportunity came up, she contacted me and said, any chance you'd want to partner with us on a $20 million grant writing process? We did the work for 5 months together, about 5 of us, but we didn't get the grant, but we did build a relationship. And then that spring, when the Sustainability Fellows program came up, they contacted me, and we had already had that relationship. So we partnered in hosting a student here.
That's great. Thanks. Luke, why did you decide to work with students in your sort of downtown revitalization efforts?
Yeah, it was like the gift that just kept on giving when we got a grant through the Citizens Institute on Rural Design. And at some point, he's a professor at Georgetown and Clemson and Drexel, named Scott Schmidt, he was searching in the middle of the night, trying to find programs that dealt with rural design, as in, human centered design, and found CERD and asked if he could attend a webinar of theirs of our cohort. I happened to be presenting that day. Everybody had a chance to present about their town and what the project was that they were working on. Scott happened to attend that session, and at the end of the session said, can I have Luke's contact information? I'd like to reach out to him. And then we started a relationship that has, again, it's the gift that keeps on giving. We keep bumping into other professors and other, skills and talents and grad programs that we keep working with, and it's been super beneficial.
And Luke, is the CERD program, the Citizens Institute for Rural Design, I forget, is that part of National Endowment for the Arts?
It was, yeah.
It was.
It was.
And that was my next question. Is that program still going?
It isn't. And it's too bad, because
Okay.
Ellsworth and Van Buren benefited greatly from that program.
Right. And I think Skowhegan did it a few years ago as well.
Yes, they did. And so did Millinocket, but during COVID. So I don't think they got the full Monty of it, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Millinocket, I believe, was one of the higher level recipients. So they actually did have a huge team that came up through CERD. Well, hopefully that program will come back, because it is a good one. Delilah, why did Heart of Biddeford decide to work with students? Was it something that you were conscious about, related to other work you were doing?
Yeah. We take very seriously that motto that Main Street is for everyone, that National Main Street shares. And so you can't say that and then just like do things for people. You have to figure out relationships, so you actually hear from people what's important to them. So we just found with working with middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, I don't even think we have a grad student experience yet. We just get the perspective of people from 11 to 25. And that group of people in the Biddeford-Saco area are more diverse than the age group, let's say 55 and older. So you're just getting a bigger diversity of perspectives to hear from people, which is a key part. And then hopefully, have our programs reflect what we learn from them. And then plus that reciprocal relationship. A lot of times the younger students cannot wait to get out of class and do something, out there in the world.
Right.
We're happy to provide that. And the college students either get college credit or, in a few cases, paid work as well.
That's great.
And then they do, I ask them at the end, what do you want to be able to say on your resume that you're taking away from this experience? So like to give practical experience.
That's great. And Luke, anything you want to add to, Scott kind of found you, this professor, but then that relationship is what sort of opened the doors to the possibilities with students in Van Buren. Is that?
Yeah, so it definitely introduced Van Buren to design research, something we knew nothing about, and I had never even heard of. And I learned through the process of attending, I ended up sitting in every one of those grad classes through the whole semester, so that they could engage with me and ask questions about what they were working on. And I learned so much about that process that I realized quite early on that every project that we do in Van Buren, we could use that process. That it is like you could teach somebody how to tie their shoes repeatedly over and over using that process. And through, for us, using community input was super important because we had some decisions that were made here in Van Buren that were, you know, did not involve the community. I talk about it often in other things, but we have an emaciated moose statue in our downtown
Yes, you do.
that is not, does not really represent the people of Van Buren, and it was gifted by the Government Services Administration when they built the new Customs and Immigration building. And basically what happened is that they did not ask the opinion of anybody in Van Buren what they would like to have for an art project. They just unveiled something that they decided the town needed, basically. And so working through the design research process, we decided we've got to find out what the people of Van Buren want. What is it that people want for an art project, if it's an art project or something else? So through that design class, we were able to determine that if the town had really participated in that project, that statue would have been one of our ferrymen that used to ferry people back and forth across the river to Canada, across the St. John River. So through that process of, you know, surveys and we gathered 20 town people in a Zoom meeting. The students had multiple questions to try to, you know, solicit information to learn about Van Buren and what the people of Van Buren wanted. And yeah, just an invaluable tool. And now we can use it moving forward for several other things. It's a perfect model to move forward. The book, the placemaking book cover, that's kind of the project book. And at some point, Anne or Sophie will share the links to the projects we've done. They're pretty heavy downloads, so you'll just download them and review them, but it really does teach the process. It's very interesting.
So one of the things that I'm hearing Luke say, and this wasn't one of my preloaded questions, Delilah and Luke, so I'm sending you another zinger, is Luke is describing what he is learning from the students, from the experience of working with students, which is pretty amazing because it's an approach, Luke, that you are clearly, you know, using in other work as you think about downtown Van Buren. So Delilah, maybe it's putting you on the spot. What have you learned from the students that is informing your work or how you think about downtown Biddeford?
I'm kind of wishing that I had something like you were describing, Luke, that, you know, like a systems change or how we do things in general. But I can think of, you know, examples probably from most of the interactions where there's something that I learned, you know, talking with students about what they'd like to see at Fringe Fest. And, you know, we never would have thought of a K-pop DJ bringing the K-pop dance troupe and shutting down the street to learn how to do that in the middle of the street. But, you know, getting to hear what they're interested in versus what we think a teenager wants to do.
That's
Very
great.
important.
I think that's a great one, Delilah.
Okay.
Like, don't,
Right.
I didn't mean it had to be a big systems change. I think it sounds like you and your other Main Street leaders and your board are sort of open to the information that's coming in from your relationships with students and these projects. And you probably are, you know, learning every day in your interactions with them, whether it's new ideas, new perspective.
That's right. Yeah, like 10
great.
years ago, realizing that Facebook wasn't going to be what they had anything to do with. And now,
There you go.
5 years ago, learning Instagram is for old people. What? You know,
Right.
over 24, I mean.
Yeah. So are there things, Luke, that, and you may have already kind of answered this, but are there things that you've worked on with the students that you would otherwise not have been able to get done? Like, were there other ways? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially the design lab from Drexel that did the so it's an architecture class that is redeveloping our former municipal building, which, and just to talk about the way this change in thinking has an impact on our downtown. We initially were going to tear down the old the front of the municipal building, which was a movie theater built in 1940. So just saying that, it's a bad idea. But the building was in pretty bad shape and we just didn't have a vision for it. It is a homely building, and essentially the only thing we could think of was, like putting lipstick on a pig. How do you fix this monstrosity that's in the downtown? And so when we started talking about how we could redevelop it, and Design Lab, I met the Design Lab professor on one of my trips to Philadelphia. She said, my class would love to redesign that building. So 20 architecture students presented 20 designs.
Wow.
That probably would have cost us way over $1 million, way over $1 million. I mean, you pay somebody to do the design, they're going to give you one design. I got 20. And then they created a case book that presented 6 or 7 different concept designs. And in the links in the chat, you'll see where it says Design Studio. That's the link. It's a very heavy download, but it'll get to you. So they presented 6 or 7 different students' designs, and now I'm working with 2 of the students beyond that grad class with the professor, and we are whittling it down to one design, and we have an architect in Maine that will sign off on it. So we couldn't do this. We couldn't afford this. And if we I have applied for funding for this project. It's $2.6 million, this renovation. A big portion of that would have been lost to engineering and architect work. And so Town of Van Buren couldn't have done that. I mean, now instead of spending that money on, the planning part of it, the planning's done. It's a shovel-ready project. Everything's ready to go. So we just couldn't have done it.
That's amazing. Delilah, any things that you've felt like in your projects that you've gotten done that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to?
Yeah, a couple examples of skilled volunteers that have made things possible. We do the holiday lighting throughout the downtown, just coordinate volunteers to get the lights strung. And a couple-year relationship is with the electrician students at the Center of Technology. And one of their greatest skills is ladders. And they're signed off to get to climb tall ladders. So they are like, walking up like this, standing on one leg, fixing, putting things up in trees that no other Heart of Biddeford volunteers could do. And we had a menorah made, for City Square. And a few years ago, they completely changed the lighting on it so that each night we could turn on a light bulb for the 8 nights, instead of having to me climb up a ladder and turn the bulb in place. So the skill set of electrical students at the high school. And then last summer, we did get this great grant called Science Discovery on Main Street. And we were supposed to do community outreach to hear from the community about what interested them about science. Having funding there to pay that sustainability fellow to work with us for the summer and have 40 hours. And she ended up doing 8 community engagement activities, at 8 of our existing events, Art Walk, Music in the Park, Juneteenth, setting up a table, being there, creating graphics for people to weigh in on and do, engage around this topic. Never in my dreams could I have pulled that off in addition to my existing work.
Wow, that's great. I love both those stories. The electrician one is interesting because I think a lot of our downtown organizations work with their public works to try to solve some of that. But it's not always as time sensitive as you might need, or maybe they don't have the ladder skills. I don't know. And obviously the menorah is like a technical rewiring, right? So that's amazing. Very, very good examples. I just want to pause for a second to see if anybody has any questions. Things going on. We've got Belfast, Augusta, and William, you are a student at Colby, correct? Great.
Yes. Hi.
So you are in downtown Waterville, one of our affiliate programs. Great. So hearing no questions, I'm going to jump to back to our speakers. So what would you say are some of the challenges of working with students? And what were those challenges? And then how about any solutions that you came up with to avoid this happening again? And Delilah, I will start with you.
One of the challenges is the interview process for bringing in an intern isn't the same as hiring a long-term staff. For example, I might just have one person contact me and say, I'm interested in doing an internship this summer. And we'll meet. And if they're interested in the project and have the skills, I'm delighted to bring them on. It's often, 110 hours for a semester or, many hours a week. But they may not have practice in professional work settings, professional work communications, and that's not like a make or break situation. It's just different from when you hire somebody and you're going to be working with them for multiple years. And I think my personal adapting strategy is usually to change my expectations. I might have thought this could happen, and just be realistic that this is the skill level available at this time. And many of the students are very open to feedback and want to be able to say they improved something. So like, I'll say, what do you think about, we plan for 6 weeks from now for you to speak at the city council meeting, for example. So we can practice and they can run over their presentations with me during the one-on-one we have each week. So it's taking on the role of mentor in some cases, which is different from like supervisor and let's see if we can get the tasks done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There's more deep sort of mentoring or management or coaching. But obviously the results in both communities' case is worth it, I would say, right? And in line with other work you're doing. And as you said, getting diverse perspectives and including diverse students and opinions. Luke, do you want to share any challenges you've had? Your structure is a little bit different in that you are working with professors with a class in a lot of your examples, but what have you got to share as far as the challenges and solutions?
Yeah, I think distance obviously created some unique challenges in that when the students were doing, just as again back to the old municipal building, it snows here like a lot. And so when you're a student that is from North Carolina trying to redevelop a municipal building, considerations that it might snow 4 feet in the front of the building is something lost on them. And so a lot of the designs, and some of it is like some of the design work is unrealistic, like financially unrealistic. And so that was kind of part of the challenges in working with the professor, is to help guide them along and say, this great idea, really cool, and would draw the public, but maybe not realistic. So at Drexel, they have a couple buildings that they redesign class after class after class after class, the same building. And so they can go to the moon if they want to. I mean, if they wanted them to design a ladder to the moon, they could. We're going to do this project, really going to do this project. So I think that was part of the challenge, to get their thinking wrapped around the fact that this would really happen. That was one of the challenges, but one of the interesting benefits was having a different perspective. An old movie theater built in the 40s, how many windows do you think are in that building? And what direction are the windows pointing in? So when the original architects designed that in 1940, that's what they designed it for. They didn't design it to be a municipal building and then a community connectivity hub. They designed it to be a movie theater. So the only windows were in the front of this building, and in the morning, obviously facing the east. And then everything else, the sun circles the building and it just remains dark all the way through the evening. The students immediately did a sun survey. And that was part of the project. They did a sun survey to see what side of the building they could open up so that it would bring in all the light that needs to get into that building to make it lit again. Like the police department
So
used to
great.
be there. We had the lights in the building on all the time. It's dark. It's a dark, gloomy building. They immediately recognized that and just, overcame that. We wouldn't have thought of that. Like we drove
Yeah.
by that thing a million times. It wasn't something we'd have ever really thought of. And for them, it was a challenge that they looked at and really designed and overcame it.
That's great. I love hearing how you had to convert the students to be like, no, this isn't an academic exercise. This is a real place in northern Maine with winter, and it happened to have a building that has no windows, right? So that's really cool. So I want to make sure we leave time for some open discussion, but one last question for our speakers today. Just talking a little bit about the different places that maybe funding has come from to support either the intern or the project, or how the students are being compensated. Do you just buy them a lot of coffee? Like what ways are you actually I guess supporting them? And in a way, Luke, it's going to be a different answer for you than Delilah, but let's start with Delilah.
Okay. The internship credits are a great situation. That's what the students might be doing their business major. They have to do 110 hours in order to get credits. And so they're kind of compensated in that way from the school. Sometimes we do get grants, and that's where we like paid for Miranda, or another time we had funding in place for a position, but we weren't ready to hire that position yet. So we had a little bit of money to pay an intern for, a few summers here and there. We've done that. And then I think, as I mentioned earlier, for the younger students, they're working with like the high school or middle school's goal for students to be out in the community. So they're achieving a social goal that the school thinks is important.
Great. And Luke, what about you? Obviously, these students were getting credit, but was there any, I don't know, you said now you're working with 2 students on more detailed sort of construction drawings. Talk a little bit about if and when there's any sort of exchange of money. And also the town of Van Buren, you had to pay to go to Philadelphia. Anyway, let's hear what you have.
Yeah. Do you want to show the
I'm
photos?
about to do that.
It'll be easier to.
Yeah.
So the Drexel with the Georgetown logo project, those are students from Drexel right there that are working in a design research class, and pretty good group. So many different talents in that group. That was such a unique group to work with. Yeah, and the next slide, I think is the.
It's the placemaking project.
Yeah, then the next slide.
Yep.
There we go. So the students that worked on this project, this is the redevelopment of our downtown municipal building. And it's there's a small business incubator, which you see on the right. And then on the left is the actual building and all the work that they've done. So the 2 students that are working with us, we will have, once we get grant funded, which we think we will get the funding for this project, they will become part of the process. We'll actually be paying them as contract employees to help work us through this process. All of the materials, all the colors, everything that is in that book is what we plan to do once we narrow down the one final design. So we'll need them as consultants to help us work through this. They picked a lot of local use materials, a lot of the wood, and a lot of it will be locally sourced. So it's pretty, and all the stone will be locally sourced. So we want to keep them as part of a paid team that will be working with us to finish this project.
That's amazing.
And then with the logo project, we've actually, and if you look at Georgetown's Facebook page, for example, everything that is on that's logoed on Georgetown, Grayson that worked with us, she is the person hired by Georgetown that does all their social media and all their logo and recognition stuff. So she we have paid her to do a couple contract things for us beyond this because we were trying to work out some other things. We haven't really presented this new logo yet, or we're in January, we're going to kind of expose it, and then all of our social media will be using this logo and the color scope that was created by her research class.
That's amazing. Yeah, I looked through the design. I mean, it was everything. It was the colors, the different ways to use it, branding guidelines, basically. Yeah, it's very extensive work. That's another thing that would have cost a lot out in the open market.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep, so lucky. And to be able to just reach out and say, hey, can you help us with this, and what it'll cost us? Now we have a contact to work with to move it forward. We want people, when they see something posted by Van Buren, to know immediately it came from Van Buren. That's the goal. So.
Yeah, it's really cool too. And the Gaiety Theater outline in the middle of the logo, I recognize, which is another theater in downtown Van Buren. So it's very cool.
Yeah. The other building's the old fire station.
That's right.
Got it. The old fire station is there. And the other building, I believe, is the church, one of the church buildings.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just, I would love to know from our guests, our small attendees today, Amanda, Jennifer, and William, questions that you might have. We have a few minutes for some questions before we wrap. What you're thinking about in Belfast, Augusta, or William, tell us what your involvement is. Are you working with the Waterville Downtown Organization, or are you just a student who's thinking about community and economic development?
I'll go. So we just finally brought on our first youth board member. So we're just trying to figure out what does that mean? So now what do we want for her? What do we want her to help us set up for the next person to come in? And then how do we continue to build this up? So I just wanted to hear all these great ideas, and now I have 2 pages of notes. So
that's great, Amanda.
And what I just looked at on my phone was, how far to Van Buren? It's 4 hours because I'm on a road trip around the state to visit different people. So Luke, I'm going to get you on my schedule.
Great. Come on up. Let me know you're here, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I toured Belfast I go all over the state looking at different towns, and I went to Belfast just to look at your community, see what you were doing. So
yeah, great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would recommend, like, one of the things that has really helped this process for us is to create an inventory of your assets and your deficiencies. And once you can identify those assets that you want to do improvement on, or if you have deficiencies you need to resolve, once you have that list, then start looking at universities that can help you resolve that problem. Like that is the way to do it. And find out who the professors are that work in those certain fields, and ask them if they'd like to do some real world work. Like, we have a downtown park, our Main Street Park, that was caused by the removal of 3 old buildings, left a great big piece of green space. We started to redevelop. I went to Job Corps, who did some painting for us last year. I don't know if you're all familiar with Job Corps, but it's really a great program. We're lucky to have it up north here. They did some painting for us in Van Buren last year, their painting class. I went to Job Corps and said, what else do you have for classes here? What else do you teach? So they teach masonry. They have a masonry department. They have a carpentry class, and then their painting class. So I'm like, could we get all the classes to sit down together? And there must be some design people in this class that would be interested in developing a park, and that we could all work together to do this design and then use the 3 different classes to build it. So that's what we did this late summer. They laid some of the cement yesterday and the day before in part of the redevelopment. And now they'll come back in the spring with all the plans, and they'll do all the cement work and all the plan work for that park. And
That's
all
amazing.
we paid is the materials. The labor is free through Job Corps. It's part of their community, their public service. So you just have to kind of be a little out of the box and think of how you can use these different skills that these students have. And they're so appreciative. They're so proud and appreciative to be a part of these things. So
well, that's great.
That's my pitch.
We'll put Job Corps information in our follow-up email to all of our attendees. And Jennifer, I know you had taken yourself off mute, so I just want to give you a chance. We can't hear you. Weird. We can't. Oh
Yeah.
dear. Oh dear. Now?
Oh, we heard you right there.
Did you hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
Now we're
yeah.
hearing
Okay,
you.
good. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't do anything different. I was just like, what do I do now? So anyhow, first of all, thank you for these great presentations. They're really interesting projects. And of course, now I'm ruminating on what we can do with UMA and the Augusta Downtown Alliance. Many of our programs do require or encourage internships, but many of our students are non-traditional, working with families, so they don't have a lot of extra time. But on the other hand, they're older and skilled. But we're also increasingly seeing traditional students coming for specific programs like aviation and architecture. And they would do internships, but a lot of them need to be paid. So now I'm thinking, how can we work with the UMA students and the Augusta Downtown Alliance, because a lot of work needs to be done. And I think, Luke, as you say, it really has to do with connecting with professors. So now I'm thinking, what can, which professors would be open to all of this? But it's great because it has gotten my mind working now. So thank you.
I just want to make sure, because I always do end on time, and I know Delilah has another commitment. So I just do want to thank Delilah and Luke for their time before they have to scoot. So thank you very much. And I know the crowd was unexpectedly small, but we will send out the recording to everybody who had registered, along with all the resources that Luke and Delilah shared, and Job Corps. Great information this morning. So I want to officially end the webinar so that Delilah can get to where she needs to go. However, good conversation, and I don't want to not let William chime in, since he is our student representative here today. Unexpectedly, we're going to put him on the spot. So goodbye, Delilah, and
Thanks
thank
so much.
you.
This was great. Good to hear you, Luke. And I'm going to come with Amanda when she goes up north.
Great, great.
Bye.
And thanks, Jennifer, for saying like you're thinking about UMA and Augusta Downtown Alliance, because obviously I think that's a really logical and has been in the past fruitful relationship, especially with the students, you know, the classes downtown, and obviously housing in Hallowell. Like there's just a lot of sort of immediate river community potential projects. Hallowell is also a downtown affiliate. So, all right, William, you're on the hot seat. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. I'll be quick so you don't need to go too far over. But my name is William. I am a senior at Colby. So I'm almost done. But I've been focusing a lot on both community engagement and also like city planning, and all that has been of interest to me. So I'm happy to join. I'll offer a couple of sort of thoughts from a Colby lens that maybe can apply to you guys. First is that we have a thing called Davis Institute Davis Connects, which is our career center, and they've offered $10 million of funding over the past, I want to say 5 years, for students who are in unpaid or underpaid internships. So if you need Colby students, and I'm sure other schools offer similar programs, that's a great resource to tap into. Delilah mentioned starting like an entrepreneurship program in Biddeford. We have the Halloran Lab for Entrepreneurship, which was, I don't know the grant size, but a large donation to Colby focused on entrepreneurship. And if there are any entrepreneurial opportunities, that it's a great institute to sort of tap into. I run our consulting club on campus, and right now we're working with the local cafe on sort of how we can drive more business there. So there's always ways to sort of tap into students in those ways. But I think it's nice to think through how students cannot be necessarily transient, but really built into the community and not have sort of a clashing dynamic with the broader community, but really a symbiotic relationship. So I'm excited to see where you guys take it.
That's great. Love hearing your perspective. And yes, a lot of colleges and universities do have the way to enhance sort of internships to make it really viable for a student to take the time to be, you know, participating in sort of a livable wage situation. So that's great to hear. And the entrepreneurship program, the Main Streets in Maine have done a lot of work on sort of rural entrepreneur ecosystem building. So it's interesting to think about whether there's something one of our communities could do that would maybe work with the Entrepreneurship Center at Colby. And obviously Colby has a downtown presence, right, in Waterville, and Waterville is a relatively new affiliate program. So they are they used to be a Main Street long ago, like Belfast and Biddeford, but they have come back in the program in just last year at the same time as Van Buren, and are really thinking about how to develop the downtown revitalization program. So that's great. So we really appreciate you being here. Any last questions as we wrap from anyone? Feeling a
I guess-
little,
Can
Yeah.
you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
I guess, could we have contact information for
Yes.
people? Because I feel
Delilah.
like going and seeing some of the projects could be helpful as we think
Absolutely.
about how to move forward.
That's one of the things that we will share in our follow-up email, Jennifer, is contact information for Luke and Delilah and the Main Downtown Center. So yes, absolutely. And I'm sure anybody would be happy to, host a visit from Augusta to come to their community. So yeah, we'll do that. And William, as you finish out your senior year, if you want to talk further about, community and economic development in rural Maine or the Main Street program, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to speak with you. I am working with a grad student at the Muskie School right now who's working on planning and sort of economic development data stuff. So anyway, I work with students quite a bit. Great. All right. Well, we will stop recording and let you guys head on your way today. And thank you and apologies for heading a bit over in our time. Would have been all right if we hadn't started late.
Thank you, everybody.